All right, so we all know that the picture, the classic boxer's workout, right? Hours spent sparring and pounding the pavement for those roadwork sessions. But you might be surprised to learn that when it comes to the training that really gets those elite boxers in top shape, they often zero in on some things you wouldn't exactly think of right off the bat as knockout punch essentials, like really seriously strengthening your neck and your hands. And get this, the way a boxer runs, like the specific types of running they do, is all based on some pretty serious scientific principles. It's not just about racking up tons of miles. So let's dive into this, shall we? Welcome to the deep dive, where we take the sources that you, our listeners, share, and we really pull out the knowledge that can help you get seriously well-informed quickly and thoroughly.
And today we're going deep on the Boxer's Guide to Performance Enhancement. This is by Enamait. And as you mentioned, this is a guide that you, our listeners, specifically brought to our attention. So our mission here is to kind of navigate through all the details of the training routines that Enamait lays out and really pull out those core insights, those surprising little nuggets, those practical pieces of advice that can really help you optimize both your physical and mental preparation.
Exactly. Think of this like your own personal cheat sheet or like a decoder ring to understanding the essential principles from this book without having to actually wade through every single page.
Right.
Now, just a bit of background on the source itself. Enamait really gears this guide towards those of you who already have some training under your belt.
Right.
It's a really, really comprehensive program. It covers absolutely everything from getting your body warmed up and ready to go, all the way to developing that mental toughness that you need to succeed in the ring.
Yes.
What I found especially interesting is Enamit's own background. He's actually trained alongside world champion boxers.
Wow.
And he's a certified fitness trainer. So he's not just talking the talk, but he's also walked the walk right. He's coming at this with a really cool blend of that real-world experience and a deep scientific understanding of what it takes to be a top-performing boxer.
I think one thing that's fascinating right off the bat is how much Enamait emphasizes that this isn't just a collection of isolated exercises.
Right.
He really makes it clear that each part of this training program is like interconnected, right?
Yeah.
They all build on each other to create this really complete and effective system. And a big part of that is understanding the why behind what you're doing. It's not just mindlessly going through the motions.
Right. He really drives this home early on when he kind of points out that traditional picture we all have of the boxer, just kind of jogging along and hitting a heavy bag.
Yeah.
He's like, that's simply not enough.
Yeah.
If you really want that serious high-level conditioning.
Right.
His message is that every single day is a chance to improve. And the last thing you want is to look back or, down the road and be filled with regret, wishing you'd pushed a little harder.
And that brings up this really crucial point about commitment. Enamait presents this idea of training as a very direct choice.
Yeah.
With very clear consequences. He's basically saying you either commit to the discipline that you need in the gym, or you face a much tougher kind of punishment when you step into the ring.
Right.
It's a very blunt but effective way to really frame the dedication that's required.
He doesn't hold back either.
No, he doesn't.
He asks you some pretty tough questions right from the get-go.
Yeah.
He throws out these points for self-reflection. Like, are you really okay with just being average?
Right.
Are you willing to risk injury by cutting corners in your prep? Are you the kind of person who makes excuses later on when things get tough?
Yeah.
It's like he's calling you out right from the start.
But then right after those challenging questions, he kind of pivots, right?
Yeah.
He immediately starts talking about the importance of positive affirmations. It's about making that conscious choice to be dedicated, to actively reject those excuses that we all make.
Yeah.
And to take full responsibility for your progress, both for the wins and for, when you maybe stumble a bit. And this mental preparation is like setting the stage right.
Yeah.
It lays the foundation for the entire physical training regimen.
Absolutely. And from there, he delves into this idea of goal setting.
Right.
Which, might seem kind of like standard advice, right?
Right.
But he really stresses the importance of not just setting those goals and then forgetting about them.
Yeah.
He talks about reviewing them regularly, constantly reminding yourself why you're pushing yourself so hard. And it becomes this ongoing source of motivation, right? Keeping your eye on the prize.
Yeah, that bigger picture.
Yeah.
So let's get into the physical stuff now. Let's talk about the warm-up. What were your initial thoughts when you saw Enamait's approach to this?
One of the first things that jumped out at me was how deliberately he separates warming up from stretching.
Oh, interesting.
He's very clear that these are not the same thing, which I think a lot of people get mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
He explains that the main point of a warm-up is to get your blood flowing, get your core body temperature up and your muscles warmed up too.
So what makes that increased temperature so beneficial?
Oh, for several reasons,
Oh,
actually. He explains that a good warm-up really cuts down your risk of injury.
mm-hmm.
It boosts your overall performance, and it even helps increase your range of motion.
Wow.
Plus, it can actually help reduce that muscle soreness after a really intense workout. He uses this great analogy. Think of warming up as like you're thoroughly preparing your entire system, your heart, your lungs, your nerves, your muscles for the hard work that's coming.
Right, like a car engine in the winter.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
got to get everything warmed up and running smoothly before you hit the gas.
Exactly.
So does he actually break down like what a warm-up should look like?
Oh, yeah, he gets into specifics. He breaks it down into two distinct phases.
Yeah.
First, you have your general warm-up, which is about 5 to 10 minutes of light activity.
Yeah.
Something like skipping rope or a light jog, just enough to break a light sweat and start loosening up.
Okay.
And then you move into the exercise-specific warm-up.
Okay.
And this is where you zero in on the specific muscles that you'll be using a lot in your main workout. So like shadow boxing before you start sparring is a perfect example.
That makes total sense. So once you're all warmed up, then comes the stretching.
Right. And he goes through three main types:
Mm-hmm.
ballistic dynamic and static stretching. Now, ballistic stretching, that's the kind with the bouncing and jerky movements.
Yeah.
He actually strongly advises against that.
Really?
Yeah, he says it can actually make your muscles tighten up involuntarily,
Uh-huh.
and that increases your risk of injury.
Makes sense.
There's this thing called the myotatic reflex, which he explains. Basically, your muscles have this built-in protective mechanism that makes them contract when they sense a sudden stretch. So if you're bouncing around, you're basically triggering that reflex over and over again.
So instead of that, what does he recommend?
He recommends dynamic stretching. This is where you're actively moving your muscles through their full range of motion, but in a smooth and controlled way.
Okay.
Think of exercises like leg swings or torso twists. They're much better for improving flexibility without the risk of injury that you get with ballistic stretching.
Okay. That makes sense. And what about static stretching? That's the kind where you hold a position, right?
Exactly. That's probably what most people picture when they think of stretching. You hold a specific position for like 15 to 30 seconds, just to the point before you feel any pain.
Right.
You really focus on relaxing the muscle and breathing deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And the key here is that static stretching comes after you've warmed up.
Got it.
He's really adamant about how bad it is to stretch cold muscles. He compares it to trying to stretch a frozen rubber band. It's way more likely to snap. Warming up first is crucial to make your muscles more flexible and ready to stretch.
So like maybe some arm twirls as a simple upper body stretch.
Exactly. Simple and effective.
So let's talk about running, which is obviously a huge part of a boxer's training. What's one of the first things that Enamait kind of challenges in this area?
He goes right after the idea that those long, slow-distance runs are like the be-all and end-all of boxing conditioning.
Interesting.
Like he acknowledges that a lot of legendary fighters swore by this type of running.
Right.
But he makes this really important distinction.
Okay.
He says that for boxing, you need more of that specific anaerobic training, the kind that really mirrors the explosive demands of a fight. The majority of a boxing match is spent working at super high intensity with not a lot of oxygen.
So how do you actually train for that? Like, how do you know you're working hard enough?
He actually gets into the science of target heart rates. Have you ever used those to guide your workouts?
Yeah, I have a general idea, but can you remind me how it works?
Sure. He gives a simple formula to estimate your max heart rate. You take 220 and subtract your age.
Okay.
So then your aerobic training zone, which is for those longer, less intense workouts, that's about 80% of your max heart rate.
Got it.
And your anaerobic zone, which is for those bursts of high intensity, is around 90%.
Okay.
So knowing these percentages helps you figure out how hard you're actually working when you're running. And it helps you train the right energy systems for boxing.
That makes sense.
It's not just about maintaining one speed for miles and miles.
So what are some of the specific running methods that Enamait recommends?
He talks about interval training. He gives some really clear examples like doing 6 sets of 600-meter sprints with a 1-minute rest between each, or maybe 8 to 10 sets of 400-meter sprints.
So short bursts of all-out effort with quick recovery periods.
Exactly. And those are key for building that anaerobic endurance you need to maintain power and speed through a fight.
What about sprinting? Like just straight up sprinting?
Oh, he's a huge fan of that too.
Okay.
He suggests doing like 10 to 12 sprints of about 70 to 100 meters each.
Okay.
And then you jog back to your starting point for recovery.
Okay.
He calls these wind sprints.
Makes sense.
But here's the kicker. He even suggests replacing that recovery jog with backward running.
Really? Backward running.
Yeah. It's all about pushing your limits right.
Right.
The key is to really hit your absolute top speed during those sprints.
Wow.
Mm.
What about hill training? Does he mention that?
Oh, yeah. He loves hill training.
Okay.
He sees it as another fantastic way to get that intense anaerobic conditioning. It's like sprinting, but with the added resistance of the hill.
Makes sense.
It's great for building strength in your hamstrings and groin.
Mm-hmm.
He does caution against jogging downhill too fast, though, because that can make you really sore.
Okay.
And he mentions that using weighted vests can be good for short uphill sprints, but not for longer distances or during interval work.
Interesting.
Too much stress on your joints otherwise.
What about ankle weights?
Big no-no.
Really? Why is that?
He explains that they actually train your body to move slower, which is like the opposite of what a boxer needs.
Makes sense.
It's all about speed and explosiveness, and ankle weights just hold you back.
Oh, so after all that intense running, what about recovery? What does he say about that?
He's all about a proper cool down. That's
Yeah.
essential.
Okay.
Then he shifts gears and talks about aerobic running.
So those longer, slower runs.
Exactly. About 20 to 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
He says it's really important for building a strong cardiovascular foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much easier on your body than that high-impact anaerobic stuff.
Right.
But I know those long, steady runs can get a bit boring. What about mixing things up a bit?
Oh, he's got you covered.
Really?
He actually recommends trying running backward, running sideways, even karaoke, running, those lateral steps you see in agility drills.
Oh, that's fun.
Right. And he's big on choosing softer running surfaces like grass or a track.
Yeah, those are way better on your joints than concrete.
Right. He's not a huge fan of treadmills or running on sand. He says it doesn't really replicate the intensity and specificity of outdoor running.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So when's the best time to squeeze in your runs with all your other workouts? That can be tricky to schedule.
He generally says running after your gym workout is ideal if you can make it work. That way you're fresher for your skill training and strength routines.
Oh.
But he gets that running before the gym might be easier for some people. And there you're less likely to skip the run when you're already tired.
Right.
He doesn't recommend intense running right before sparring, though.
Good point. What about eating before a morning run?
He says it can give you energy, but you gotta factor in digestion time.
Yeah, you don't want to feel sick mid-run. So what are the absolute must-haves for running gear?
Good running shoes are non-negotiable.
Oh,
You
definitely.
gotta protect those feet. And you need a reliable stopwatch to time those intervals and track your progress.
Okay.
He also mentions a weighted vest if you want to crank up the intensity on those short uphill sprints.
All right, let's switch gears now and talk about strength training.
Okay.
There's this idea out there that lifting weights makes boxers slow and bulky. What does Enamait say about that?
He totally debunks that myth.
He does.
Oh, yeah. He points to all these examples from other sports like football and track and field,
Okay.
where you have incredibly strong athletes who are also super fast and agile.
Right.
His point is that the right kind of strength training program is absolutely essential for boxing. It helps with punching power and handling opponents in close. And he emphasizes it's about functional strength and power, not just getting big muscles.
It's about building the right kind of strength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he actually breaks down the different types of strength that are specifically relevant for boxing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. First, you have limit strength, which is like your absolute max force you can exert in one go. That's your base.
Okay.
Then there's starting strength, which is your ability to fire up your muscles super fast, like for a quick jab. Then explosive strength, that's about maintaining speed and power throughout a movement, like when you throw a combination.
Okay.
And finally, anaerobic strength. That's your muscles' ability to keep working hard even when oxygen is limited. Crucial for those later rounds.
So you need all 4 types of strength.
Yeah. He stresses that a good training program needs to hit all of them, especially explosive and anaerobic strength,
How do you train for those?
through what he calls ballistic training.
Okay.
These are high-velocity movements.
Like what?
Plyometrics weightlifting done with speed jumps, throws, and of course punches.
Right.
He does say don't try to cram too much strength training into one workout.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to overdo it.
Right. He recommends lifting weights about twice a week alongside your boxing training.
So he also mentioned these things called mesocycles.
Oh, yeah, these are like different phases within your training plan.
Okay.
It's a progression. You start with building that solid foundation of limit strength, then move on to speed and explosive movements, and then finally, ballistic training.
So you build up gradually.
Exactly. He's like, don't jump straight into the most intense stuff without a good base.
Smart.
Mm.
Now, he gives a pretty long list of weightlifting exercises.
Yeah.
Are there any he really highlights for boxers?
Oh, yeah. He loves full body exercises like the power clean press and squats.
Those are tough.
They are, but they're great for building overall power and athleticism.
Okay.
For squats, he says, pay attention to your depth and your stance. And with the power clean press, he breaks down the whole movement so you do it right.
Safety first, right.
Absolutely. He also includes lunges, step-ups, calf raises, all sorts of exercises for specific muscle groups that are important for boxing.
And he even has some that don't seem that boxing specific, like weighted toe touches and raise ups.
Right. Those are good for targeting your hamstrings and lower back, which are crucial for stability and power generation.
Okay.
For upper body, he's got exercises like the straight arm raise and hold the squat press, the shoulder press with a specific corkscrew motion, the bench press flat, and incline the close grip bench press for triceps, biceps curls, and even body weight exercises like dive bombers.
Wow, so many options.
Yeah.
And he doesn't forget about push-ups, but he has some interesting variations.
Yeah, he's got close grip push-ups, push-ups with your feet raised, depth push-ups, ball push-ups for stability, and T push-ups, which add rotation.
It's like the classic push-up, but amped up.
Exactly. He wraps up this section by reminding you about those key muscle groups for boxing and how important it is to have overall strength. And he highlights squats and the power clean press again as great choices.
So after building that strength base, let's talk about explosive power. He gets into plyometrics, right?
He does, and he's really adamant about something before you even start.
What's that?
He says you need a solid base of strength and stamina before doing plyometrics.
Okay.
He specifically references that introductory strength mesocycle we talked about.
Right.
Plyometrics are high impact, and your body needs to be ready for it.
That makes sense. Otherwise, you could get hurt.
Exactly. He also says that while combining strength training and plyometrics in the same workout can be really effective, it's not the only way to do it.
Okay. So what are some of the plyometric exercises he recommends?
Well, he breaks them down as these fast, explosive movements for speed and power. For lower body, there are different squat jumps, some with dumbbells or a weighted vest, half squat jumps, plyometric step-ups, and jump-ups onto a barrier.
Those sound intense. What about upper body?
He's got some cool drills with the heavy bag and medicine balls.
Really?
Yeah. There's the bag push where you push the bag away with both hands.
Okay.
And for medicine balls, he lists overhead throws, chest passes, one-arm throws with hip rotation, side throws with a pivot, underhand throws, Russian twists, twisting lunges, and a partner exercise called a sit-up pass.
Wow, those sound like they work your whole body.
They do. And they're all designed to build that explosive power you need for boxing.
Now let's talk about those often neglected areas he mentions. The abs, the neck, and the hands. Why are those so important?
He says they're crucial for both protection and performance.
Okay.
Strong abs protect you from body punches.
Right.
A strong neck helps prevent knockouts.
Wow, that's important.
And your hands are obviously your tools for striking, so strong forearms and wrists are essential.
What are some exercises for each area?
For abs, he lists knee hugs, V-ups, bicycle crunches, knee touches, side crunches, leg raises, twists the ab wheel roll outside, bends with dumbbells, and back extensions.
That's a full ab workout.
It is. For the neck, he recommends the upright row, which also works your shoulders.
Two birds, one stone.
Right. And for hands, he stresses strengthening the forearms.
Okay.
He suggests reverse curls, hammer curls, wrist curls backwards, wrist curls the wrist roller, a hand gripper, and the rice grip exercise.
What's the rice grip?
You basically submerge your hand in a bucket of rice and make twisting motions.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
He's really big on those hand and forearm exercises. He even talks about his own experiences with hand injuries.
Okay, so he clearly knows what he's talking about. What about conditioning drills? I feel like those are where you really push your limits.
Yeah, he's got this concept called minute drills.
Okay.
It's basically a series of exercises done back-to-back with no rest.
Oh, wow, that sounds tough.
It is. The goal is to keep your heart rate up and add variety to your conditioning.
So they can be a substitute for interval running.
Exactly. And the key is maximum intensity. You go all out for the whole drill.
Got it.
You can focus on upper body or lower body. He lists all sorts of exercises.
Like what?
Sprints, backward, running sideways, shuffling karaoke, running jump rope high knees, running in place with alternating dumbbell presses, shadow boxing with light dumbbells, push-ups, squat jumps, split jumps, step-ups, barrier jumps, and standing long jumps.
Wow, that's quite a list.
It is. And he even gives specific examples of 2-minute and 3-minute drills for different levels.
Okay. Now, jumping rope, that always seems like a basic warm-up exercise.
Right. But he says it's way more than that.
Really?
He's like, jump rope is amazing for anaerobic conditioning.
Interesting.
He even gives different techniques like high knees, crisscrossing double jumps, running forward, backward, and sideways while skipping.
Okay, so it's not just basic skipping.
Definitely not. And he's got specific jump rope drills too, similar to those minute drills. He suggests doing 4 rounds with minimal rest, really keeping the intensity high.
Okay.
He also mentions combining jump rope with shadow boxing, doing dumbbell holds before shadow boxing, and even a speed drill with light weights.
So he's really maximizing the jump rope.
He is. Let's move on to the classic boxing equipment, the heavy bag and the speed bag.
Okay.
What are his key tips for those?
Well, for the heavy bag, he emphasizes throwing combinations, exhaling with each punch, and moving around the bag like it's a real opponent.
So it's not just mindless punching?
Nope. He gives specific drills, too.
Like what?
There's a speed drill, an outside drill, an inside drill, focusing on hooks and uppercuts, and even combination drills.
And the speed bag, is it just for hand-eye coordination?
He says it's great for that, but also for hand speed and shoulder strength.
Okay.
He stresses adjusting the height correctly and focusing on rhythm, backward, frontward, backward.
Got it.
You start with one hand, then alternate.
Okay.
The goal is fast, controlled punches for the entire round.
Now, this next part about Swiss ball training, that's not something you usually see in boxing.
Right. I was surprised to see that, too.
What's his reasoning for including it?
Well, he explains that the Swiss ball creates this unstable environment.
Okay.
It makes you use those small stabilizer muscles that often get neglected.
And why is that good for boxing?
Because in a fight, you're constantly dodging, ducking, and moving off balance. So the Swiss ball helps you prepare for that.
Interesting.
It trains your body to work together as a unit. He even says a good Swiss ball is a pretty cheap investment.
So it's like a secret weapon.
Yeah, kind of.
And it strengthens your core, which is so important for boxing.
Exactly. He gives a bunch of exercises, too.
Like what?
The ball roll hip extension, Russian twist on the ball back extension ball push-ups, even using the ball as a bench for weightlifting and balance drills.
Wow, that's versatile. Okay, let's get into nutrition. What are his main principles?
He's a big believer in complex carbs for sustained energy.
Okay.
He recommends things like sweet potatoes, whole wheat bread, and oats.
Those are all good, slow-burning carbs.
Exactly. They release energy gradually, unlike sugary foods that give you a quick spike and then a crash.
Makes sense.
It's about keeping your blood sugar stable for consistent energy. What about protein?
He says protein is key, especially after workouts for muscle repair and growth.
Okay.
He recommends egg whites as a good source, but he cautions against super high protein diets.
Really? Why?
He says it can be tough on your kidneys and liver.
Okay.
And if you cut carbs too much, you risk muscle loss.
Interesting.
And he points out that a lot of the initial weight loss on low-carb diets is just water weight.
So what about fats? Are those completely off limits?
No, he says fats are necessary, but in moderation. About 10% of your diet.
What are they good for?
Healthy skin and hair and absorbing certain vitamins.
Okay.
He makes a distinction between bad fats and good fats.
Like saturated and unsaturated.
Exactly. Focus on the unsaturated ones.
Got it.
He also mentions essential fatty acids like omega-3 and omega-6.
Right. Those are important.
And he suggests flaxseed oil as a supplement if you need it.
Does he get into vitamins and minerals?
He does. He lists important ones like vitamin A, the B, vitamin C, D, E, and K, and minerals like calcium, iron, magnesium, zinc.
And those are all crucial for athletes, right?
They are, because we need more of them due to intense training.
Makes sense.
He even suggests mineral supplements because they get depleted quickly through sweat.
Okay.
And he talks about antioxidants and how they fight free radicals.
Those are the harmful molecules you get from exercise, right?
Exactly. And hydration, of course, is super important.
Definitely.
He stresses that even mild dehydration can really hurt your performance.
So how much water should you be drinking?
He says aim for 8 to 10 glasses a day. and drink consistently,
Okay.
and don't go overboard with caffeine.
Got it. So how does he tie all this nutrition info together?
He gives this complete plan.
Okay.
He suggests eating 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day,
Okay.
every 3 hours or so.
That keeps your energy levels up.
Right. He also recommends meal replacement shakes if you're short on time.
Those can be convenient.
And he emphasizes refueling right after workouts with protein and carbs.
Okay.
He reiterates the 8 to 10 glasses of water a day and avoiding too much caffeine.
Good reminders. What about supplements beyond protein?
He talks about glutamine and BCAAs for muscle growth and recovery.
Okay.
Creatine for power and recovery, but with a warning about weight gain and avoiding it with caffeine.
Okay.
Robust for endurance and a few others.
Any budget-friendly options?
He suggests flaxseed oil, glutamine, and BCAAs.
Okay, good to know. And what about those caffeine and ephedrine products?
Big no-no.
Really?
He says they have bad side effects, they're banned in many sports, and they deplete your vitamins and minerals.
So better to stick with healthy supplements.
Exactly. He even includes sample meal plans and a way to estimate your calorie needs.
Wow. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about putting all this info into actual training programs.
Okay.
He starts by reviewing those 5 main components of boxing training. What are they again?
Running, strength training, plyometrics, conditioning drills, and boxing skill work.
Right. And of course, a strict diet and supplements.
Absolutely. He also gives some general training tips.